No hate, no hype, no fear. We are DFR, your protection from deception.
For me, the world is weird because it is stupendous, awesome, mysterious, and unfathomable. My interest has been to convince you that you must assume responsibility for being here in this marvelous world, in this marvelous desert, and at this marvelous time. I wanted to convince you that you must learn to make every act count, since we are going to be here for only a short while. Too short, in fact, for witnessing all the marvels of it. Welcome, friends. I'm your host, Zen Garcia. This is Secrets Revealed, and I thank you for taking the time to join us this evening. I have as co-host with me again, Cathy Dunson. Cathy, are you there, sister?
I'm here. Good evening, everybody.
Excellent. And we have as guest again, Brother Kip, the D13 Watchman. Brother Kip, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Excellent. Thanks, brother, for joining us again on short notice. And I was wanting to follow up the show anyways, but when you released and sent me the link to your latest, well, not your latest, but the one previous to it on the Vortex in the North, I thought, what better time than to go ahead and bring you on and to go ahead and follow up in discussion on those things that we were talking about in last week's show, which is also connected to this as topic. And you had in your video, you have the quote from Enoch chapter 8, but I believe it's chapter 18 that you were
Yes.
yeah, chapter 18 that you were quoting from, which we'll share that when we get a little bit down into the show. But I did want to talk a little bit more about that and cover some of the specifics, and I'll share also a few other passages from Scripture which give us further elaboration as to this portal, this gateway that resides at the north, and how I believe it's really what Jacob also saw when he was given vision of a ladder, with the angels ascending and descending upon it, and because this portal that is located at the north does in fact lead into the throne room, the very throne room of God, the heavenly temple, and also down into Sheol, the great abyss, which you did a really excellent job of describing that in the short video that you released on the Vortex of the North as confirmation for that particular chapter in the book of Enoch. But before we go into that and talk a little bit about your even your last video release, I do want to give you chance to give out your contact, your website information, anything that you want to share with people as to where they can go and support your work. And then we'll talk a little bit about some news if Cathy has something that she'd like to bring to light.
Sure. Anyone that wants to go and find my material can go to d13watchmen.com. You can also find the new Facebook community through there. And you can just go to YouTube, type in D13 Watchmen, and it'll be the first result in the search engine.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, again, there's a lot of, and even though you've only been really doing this for not even very long time, you can tell that you have reached a lot of people and have touched their lives because you have a lot of subscribers and a lot of people viewing your information. And so I think that's really wonderful, especially in connection to the topics that we are talking about and we have been covering and sharing upon for the last few months, and especially since I came out and went public on this information myself, which, for all of us hasn't even really been that long, Cathy included. But Cathy, I know that there was a specific website that was a bulk of information that you might want to mention? And was there any other news or events that you wanted to share comment on, and that we could also get Kip to share commentary on?
Well, I did want to say, first of all, what a joy it has been this week to spend time watching some of the videos that Kip has put out. I think in the past I may have run across his channel, but I wasn't aware of him until after last week and spending time. This week, I've watched his Secrets of the Bees. I learned a lot from that, and it also contrasted with what we share often in the animal die-offs, and especially bees. I mean, it's such an indicator of what is going on. I didn't know that they have monoculture in California with the almond growing. I mean, that was a perfect example how they have to transport the bees in, but they couldn't possibly live there because they only flower for, I think it's a month that you said, Kip?
Yes. Yeah, 1 month.
It's so unnatural what they're doing, and that they were feeding the bees this enhanced corn syrup and antibiotics that are in them, and then that goes into things I did not know. I got to tell you, the part where the little bees were it being I don't want to say experimented on because it just sounds so inhumane, but they were darling in these little tubes, and he had them kind of, I mean, I hate to say that they were darling, but he had them kind of taped in these little cylinders and feeding them and engendering a response, a memory from them. It was really a fascinating video. I encourage everyone to go watch that, Secrets of the Bees. And then through today, you put out this fantastic video. I had emails from people telling me to go watch. It's called In Times of Darkness, and just, tears, encouragement, and really exhorting us to be caring and concerned for one another, especially in these days, the dark times. It was a marvelous work that you did there, brother. I just got to commend you on that.
It was a tough one to make, I'll tell you that.
Well, there were a lot of tears from me, and I know from some of my friends. I've had many people contact me about your work and wanting to know how to get a hold of you, and that's something I don't encounter a lot. I mean, I always encourage people to contact me if they need information, and this time I got a plethora of people interested in how to get a hold of you. So, thank you.
Well, that's awesome. Really awesome. But since we are talking about the bees, I was, wanting to share this information. I just did not know how. That I had discovered that there's, for those that might be later interested in keeping bees or in helping to create the populations of bees, because we know that they've been dying off, whether it's through the GMOs or the HARP or cell tower. I don't know exactly what it is, but a lot of things are contributing to what seems to be like mass genocide of these bees, and they are so important to the grander scheme of things in flourishing through the pollination process and helping plants to is it couple? I don't even know, but they are very important in us being able to keep the whole thing as far as the growing of food and the natural cultivation of all these different plants that rely on them for the pollination process. But anyways, there's a totally non-invasive way to keep populations of bees, especially for those that might be interested in combating serious allergies. That one of the natural ways that you can do that is by eating local honey, and that because the bees do pollinate all these flowers and plants, that they can help in eating localized honey, that it can really help you into staving off the effects of allergies. And so a lot of people are, even especially in this year, are going through, it seems like it's getting worse for whatever reason. But there's a thing called the flow hive, which is it's really cool. It's a kit that allows you to set up a house for the bees to come into, and then it allows you to tap into the honey by just like turning on a spigot. You don't even have to, because a lot of times in with the way that it's normally done, they have to pull out the honeycombs, to scrape off the bees, and totally almost, affect their colonies by infiltrating them and just disrupting their normal, natural daily routines. But with this flow hive, you just turn on the spigots of whichever honeycombs are full, and then just turn them off, and you never, not one bee is in any way disrupted. None of them are killed in trying to attain the honey, and it creates so much honey. It's just amazing that you could even, with two or three of these flow hive chambers, and that you could probably even sell at a local level this localized honey to people that might be looking for it. Because even here in Georgia, looking for localized honey, because my son does have allergies himself, that I noticed that they don't offer it. It's very difficult to find anybody that has localized honey. That a lot of even those places that are natural co-ops, they often will import them from other honey growers, um, like Florida citrus groves or whatever, are some of the honey that's being sold even in these natural co-ops. But it's a really interesting thing to check out. It makes the cultivation of honey really easy, and it would help, the bee populations in wherever area you are. It's a good way to uh, assist the ecosystem, and to make sure that bees are stay, as far as having support structure for them to continue on, that this is one way to support that. And so anyways, but Brother Kip, would you talk a little bit about, because I have not watched that particular video, about some of the information that you share and the things that you are specifically referencing in that video?
He does go on to talk about the occult in corn as well in that video. So I didn't want to leave that out. Please, Kip, I didn't want to jump in on you.
Yeah, I just started studying that because I've been thinking about corn before. Because I just started thinking, I'm like, why is it in all these movies they're always showing cornfields? Like in Transformers, they showed cornfields. In Interstellar, they show them in the cornfields. And then when I started researching it, especially when I found that study that lady did way back when on the genetics with the corn, how you can discover the genetic splicing and sequencing of DNA through corn, it was like light bulbs started going off in my head, and I'm like, is that why they made the movie The Children of the Corn? Are we really the children of the corn? And I just started realizing that seems to me a good way for the enemy, to corrupt our genetics, to corrupt the DNA, cause the problem, and then offer the solution of, hey, you're sick, you're weak, you're tired, you're going to die young. Well, here, if you take this pill or if you take this injection, you can live for 1,000 years. This will correct your genetic. And I'm like, that's it. That's why we have the health problems we have right now. They're making us sick so they can offer us these solutions.
Right, and they absolutely do that. I mean, even when you go into and study the history of vaccines, that doctors were giving these things to their patients as a way to create disease so that they can, increase the need for their care. And so, and also the pharmaceutical companies. And so these kind of things have been ongoing, and they've been doing these things for a very long time. Now, as far as the genetically modified corn and the things that they are doing with the different uh, the different crops, we don't even know how that is going to affect. I know that they've done some study on some rats, and it wasn't even after 3 or 4 weeks that the rats started to show signs of, their genome, their DNA being altered, and it led to cancer and huge tumorous growths. And for these things to be allowed, and before they were even really studied very well, and now they sell all these genetically modified crops, and it's infiltrating even into people that are using heirloom seeds in their crop production, and so it's destroying everything. And in my mind, this is also connected to what Yeshua references when he speaks about as in the days of Noah, because in the book of Giants it talks about how the giants, they were corrupting the even not just animals and humans, but also of the plants. In whatever way that is, everything became totally corrupted as far as genetically. And so I see that reflected in the genetic modification of all these different plants and crops and things. And so we are absolutely, in my opinion, living in the as in the days of Noah. Um,
Zen, I
yeah.
wanted to offer a website. This is kind of on the other end of the spectrum of mass animal deaths for 2016. They also have it's actually many years. They also have a list of mass bee die-offs. It's a very difficult site to go to often because
But
there are a lot of die-offs, but it's end-times-prophecy.org. And they have, daily links to the articles. For instance, on the 18th of May, there was 70 tons of fish died in a canal due to heavy rains in Ho Chi Minh, Vietnam. Then on the 17th, tons of dead fish found in Germany. On the 16th, 1 million plus cattle have died this year due to extreme weather in Mongolia. On and on and
wow.
on. So that's a site for people to know about, and plus looking at the mass bee die-offs.
Yeah, those kind of things are very sad because the content is just so heavy, so very heavy. Kip, did you have a comment?
Um, Not really on that. I covered kind of a lot of that in that Nibiru video I made talking about Nibiru is coming. The signs are being shown. I had a fairly large list in there, the animal die-offs, because I tell people that this is not normal for this
Right.
to be happening right now. People say, oh, this has happened before. Not at these levels. This has never happened at this high a level.
Yeah, I
And a
agree.
lot of people want to assign it all to one thing or another, and I just think it's a combination of things. The geoengineering, yes, Fukushima too,
Right.
the Gulf oil spill. There are so many factors going on. I know some people everything they relate to Nibiru, but it's not that. And there are systems that may be going on that we are even unaware of. I think that the flat earth discovery and research brings that to light, or opportunity to at least question what some of these other systems may be. I know people get real excited about the earthquakes. They say that, this is an indication that Nibiru is like over the hill. And, I don't think that now. And I think that there's probably something else going on.
Well, we can kind of notice that. I actually am starting to believe it's disruption of the magnetic fields.
Yeah, I could totally see that. I could see that. Just because, the magnetics are in so metaphysically bound to everything, and we don't really understand how all that is interrelated or how it affects. But when you do, disrupt, like even the natural frequencies or vibration or um, through magnetics, it affects the living systems of an organism. Well, let's, Kathy, were there any other news stories or anything related to flat Earth that you wanted to bring forth um, in the first part of the show?
There's nothing really that I pulled out. I did want to offer a new website for people to go to. I haven't looked at it myself, but Plane Not a Planet, which is a site I go to often, has offered this. It's called flatearthgrid.info, and he says this site claims to update hourly. Some of these sites, if you go there, one of my favorites now too, other than Plane Not a Planet, is what happened on the flat Earth this week, and the address is who TFE. Okay, let me just WHOTFETW.com. That is a great site. They are constantly pushing out information. It's videos, articles, and you can keep updated on what is going on currently. And they'll do some of the older stuff too. But having a few of these things that you reference is a great way to educate yourself, learn about what's going on. I was having a conversation with a friend wanting to know what she could show her son to help him understand everything, what's going on, how you would prove flat Earth. And so we've decided we're going to put together some educational helps to include on the website I'm building right now. So it's really good to have that information. I forget that not everybody is looking at it as closely as I am, and I think surely they must know all this stuff, but no, that's not the case. Anyway,
do you want to make mention of that the video on the Q&A too that you just recently sent me?
The Potter's Clay is the website, and that was questions and answers. Where did I put that one? Hold on just a second. Potter's Clay is the website. That was really very good. Not long. There are a lot of videos out, so it's hard to, where I used to filter for a day for flat Earth and watch all the videos. Now there are so many, it's hard to keep up with it. So it's really good to have some resources who can point you to what is worthwhile.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Or channels as well that and trust to be able to watch. So
well, you can share it in the chat room when you.
Okay. Well, that was the name of the YouTube channel, is the Potter's Clay, and it was questions and answers, and it was very short and it was very good. So I highly recommend that. There was one. No, I think that was all. I think that's all for you. Sir.
Okay, right on. Well, I personally am glad that I began to do this research as far as looking into flat Earth and all the topics and areas connected to it. Previous, like sometime in, I think it was June of 2015, not even very long ago at all. But I'm glad that I did my research then, because the amount of material that was available was, in my opinion, of better quality, as far as with the amount that is coming out now, everybody's jumping on the bandwagon, and there's so much material that, for me, because of all the things that I'm doing and involved in, it's difficult to keep up and watch all of the new stuff, and so a lot of what I'm watching nowadays, if I am and do have time to look into some of this information, it seems to be not of as good content as the stuff that was available in regard to this area of research previously. Whether that's true or not, it's just my own perspective and opinion, because there is so much. And I guess because I have researched it and studied this for a long time now, that, well, I say a long time, but last year, but I'm familiar with a lot of what people are already putting out and what they are producing. And for a lot of people, that all of that will still be new to them. And so, I'm finding it difficult to find anything of new in connected to this as research because I have been studying it for a while. Is that
That's
the
why
same?
that's why Kip's website and his work is so exciting, because he's looking at deeper things, just as yourself with the firmament, and initially with Book of Enoch and the courses of the heavenly luminaries. It's, a lot of people are doing it's flat, the water's level, and there's some really great stuff there as well. Once you get that, I mean, sea level, where does it show sea
Right.
curve? It doesn't. I posted a picture today of a skydiver. I was into skydiving a long time ago, and when I hit the target, I never accounted for the movement of the Earth.
Right, and it doesn't move. All right, we'll be right back. All right, welcome back, everybody, for our second segment. The first one went by so very fast, it caught me kind of off guard. And so anyways, we will cover just a few more things before we go into the topic as far as the void of the north. But Kip, is there anything that you wanted to bring forth? Anything that you've discovered that you'd like to share? Anything of interest over the last week that since the last time we talked?
Just kind of the bee stuff, and right now I'm working on a video because it seems this hexagon thing just never ends. Now I've come across some information showing all the structures and buildings that are all modeled after hexagons.
Huh. Well, that's interesting. Okay, well, let's go ahead and start talking about some of the stuff as far as the vortex of the north.
Let me ask Kip
Sure,
one thing, just in
sure.
case he has encountered this. Have you run across the black goo?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. I mean, because I'm running across that all the time. It's being used in the movies a lot, and it's been for some time as well. Not to mention that it's something that's ongoing with the Gulf oil problem. And anyway, I was curious if you had. Do you think you might do something on that?
Yeah, I've been working on that. I have like 10 projects I'm working on at the moment. So it's on
Okay,
the list.
I'm going to send you this information I have about that. Maybe it'll be something that'll be helpful to you. And
Okay.
with that, I'll just sit on the side and listen to y'all.
Okay, great. Well, we appreciate you, sister. But I guess what I'm going to do is read this passage from Job, which, in my opinion, also, like chapter 18 of the book of Enoch, gives us description of this particular area, this void in the north. And another thing that is really interesting about this particular passage and the other one with chapter 18 of Enoch is that there is connections to the throne of God and paradise and the place of the righteous, as well as the place of the wicked, and sheol, Tartarus, and the great abyss. And I elaborate greatly on these topics in the book that I'm working on now, which, like I said in last week's interview, it was intriguing for me to discover. And I'm going to give a shout out to George, who was the person that George Cannon, the person that gave me your information and linked me to some of your video work. You are confirming witness to the things that I'm working on even right now in paragraph and with this particular book. And so it was really intriguing to see you come about it in a different way and speaking about it in from a different perspective. And then looking into, and now that I've had a chance to watch the primer filled experiments and looking at more of that material, it's just amazing. Out of the mouths of two or three witnesses shall the truth be established. And so I'll read this and then I'll get you to comment on this, Kip. This is from chapter 26 of the book of Job. I'm going to read the King James Version, and then I'm going to read the Targum translation of these same verses. It says this: Dead things are formed from under the waters, and the inhabitants thereof. Hell is naked before him, and destruction hath no covering. He stretcheth out the north over the empty place, and hangeth the earth upon nothing. He bindeth up the waters in his thick clouds, and the cloud is not rent under them. He holdeth back the face of his throne, and spreadeth his cloud upon it. He hath compassed the waters with bounds, until the day and night come to an end. The pillars of heaven tremble, and are astonished at his reproof. From the Targums. Is it possible that the mighty who are decayed will recover when they are below the waters in their camps? Sheol is revealed before him, and the grave and Abaddon have no cover. He it is who stretches the north upon the void. He erects the earth over the waters without anything to support it. Who binds up the rain in his clouds, and the cloud is not rent under it? He holds tightly the thick darkness about his throne, so that the angels will not see him. He spreads the clouds of his glory over it like a curtain. He decreed that the firmament should dwell upon the surface of the waters as the boundary between light and darkness. The pillars of the heavens tremble and are shaken by his wrath. And so, what was it specifically that got you to release, this last video? Was it, something that we were talking about, the show that we did last, together, or was this something you were already working on and you just wanted to bring it forth? And then if you would explain the commentary and the things that you bring forth in that video, the Vortex of the North.
Well, I've been kind of studying the vortex as it goes, but I have to give credit to a person that came to me through the Facebook group. He joined and we were talking a little bit, and he just happened to post this video. He's like, "Have you seen this video that came out?" And I was like, "No." And I clicked the video and I was like, "Oh my goodness, there it is!" And it was the leaked footage from NASA that a whistleblower leaked out on the internet. Of course, the Hollow Earth people, they took that in right away, not really understanding what they were seeing. And I knew right away, I'm like, this is what Enoch was talking about. This is exactly word for word what he spoke of that he saw in the north. So I just quickly put a video together. I'm going to be doing another video that's going to go way more in depth. I just kind of wanted to make that a quick one and put it out there. And I couldn't believe that I had like 3,000 hits within 12 hours on that video.
Yeah, it's awesome. I think people are really hungry for the truth, and they want to be able to understand the scriptures in a way that they had not previously. And this, all that we're talking about as far as the enclosed world system as model for where we are and who we are, it unlocks so much that has been hidden away, but always there encoded, divinely inspired and encoded into the Word of God. And so when you actually open yourself to the possibilities of this being the way that it is, again, so many things come to light, and the scriptures come to life in a way that previously little understood. And so let me I'll actually share the passage that we're talking about from the book of Enoch. And also, if you read it from the different translations, you get greater detail just from the overall context of the different translations. And even like I looked up the Book of Enoch, there's a little known interpretation called the Book of Enoch with the Yahweh Restored Name translation, and that also gives a little more insight into this topic. And I'll actually pull that one up while we're sharing the commentary over this. But it says in the book of Enoch about this specific reference. Over these fountains also I perceived a place which had neither the firmament of heaven above it, nor the solid ground underneath it, neither was there water above it, nor anything on wing, but the spot was desolate. And then Enoch goes on to describe that this is the place where the seven stars which came not forth during their appointed time, that this was their place of imprisonment. And so I'll read that really quick as well. And there I beheld seven stars like great blazing mountains, and like spirits entreating me. Then the angel said, this place until the consummation of heaven and earth will be the prison of the stars and the host of heaven. The stars which roll over fire are those which transgressed the commandment of God before their time arrived, for they came not in their proper season. Therefore was he offended with them and bound them until the period of the consummation of their crimes in the secret year. And so these two verses, in my opinion, are confirming witness to one another, and they also give description of those things that we were talking about. As far as I'm tying this together with what I believe is depicted in Jacob's vision and the Jacob's ladder, with the this being a portal, a gateway where the angels ascend and descend, not only up into the very heights of heaven to the very throne room of God, where the Most High sits, being surrounded by the angels in choir, worshiping at his feet, and that the throne in the heavenly temple is established on the what is referenced in Scripture as the sea of glass, this sea of crystal glass, and that that is why it in all of the visions, like in John, when he's taken up before the throne room of God and brought before the presence of the Most High, in Enoch, Ezekiel, they all are describing this same kind of thing, and that the firmament being above the heads of the cherubim, and that they are surrounding the throne of God and in worship Him. But the other part of that, because you have the heavens and then the earth in the center as the meeting place for the above and the below, the plane of the earth, the circular plane of the earth, as the place, the proving grounds where humanity being um, born into flesh in our fallen state of being, that we are here to be tried and tested by the duality that is good and evil, and that this is also the place where heaven and hell meet. And so the part of the Jacob's ladder which is not cited or spoken about is the part which goes down into Sheol, and that is also tied and connected to the great abyss. And you made description of this in your video, and I liked the way that you had tied it all together with the white throne judgment, and also with all of us, our attempts are to try to make people aware of truth and how it ties together with um, these things that we're speaking about now, and coming to understand who we are, where we are, and what really is all going on. And so, can you elaborate on that, on those portions of your video, and why this is important to you?
Well, in order to cover this in more depth, one of the things, I'm going to be making a video about this too, but what I see a big rise on now is getting people to doubt history, to doubt the scriptures, to doubt the ancient texts. This is part of the Antichrist agenda. It's like I just posted on the Facebook group about the nothing from the never-ending story. What does the nothing do? He takes away everything, so people literally lose hope, that they've forgotten the past, they've forgotten history. And I see this agenda very heavily coming out now, getting people to planting all these seeds of doubt that, well, we don't know the dates and we don't know if this has been altered. That is exactly what the enemy wants us to think. They want us to doubt everything so we can be part of the new agenda that's coming out. That's why I feel that these videos I'm making and other people are making are so very important, that we look and prove these things. Because if you know that the vortex is in the north and you're aware of it, that then there's a white throne there, and that's the spot where the people get judged and you get thrown into that thing, I don't want to see anybody get thrown in there. And people need to just wake up and say, hey, this is reality here. We're not playing around. You know, it's very, very serious, because you have a whole eternity in front of you that you need to be concerned about now in this short time frame.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think really that is the most important aspect of all the things that we are talking about. Because, I receive emails like I'll share. This was one of the comments that was left on one of my YouTube videos and talking about these things. But basically, the person says, and I'm toning it down here. I've basically removed all the cuss words out of it. But um, this is, and I'm sure you get a lot of this as well, Kip. Who gives a crap if the Earth is a globe, flat or square? I don't give a crap. These things do not impact my daily life. Why worry about crap that you have no control over? What? Because the government is lying to you? Who gives a crap? I don't think they should have to fill you in on every dang thing. I know the Earth to be a globe, which, there's no way he knows the Earth to be a globe, other than that's his belief, because if you do the real research, it proves it otherwise. But anyways, I know the Earth to be a globe, but believe what you want. I'd rather live a relaxed, chill life than to worry about BS that doesn't concern me. And this is the mindset, the belief of so many people when they are first confronted with this as topic. Even myself, it was a knee-jerk reaction to basically downplay all of this and to consider it ludicrous, to even to question, because flat earthers have been made fun of, and it's basically a negative connotation now that is linked with idiocy, or with being stupid or ignorant in some way. And so many people are unwilling to look at it or openly investigate it in any serious manner, because they believe that the science has settled the question. And then when you really begin to investigate it, you learn otherwise. First, that there is no measurable curvature, and that you can perform and do things personally which defy the science as far as the supposed measurable curvature, that you can see things beyond the limits of what you should be able to. And because we've all been indoctrinated into this, accepting this and buying into it and believing it, and that we support it, even in defiance whenever anything coming forth contradicts it, without even realizing why. That it makes it difficult for people to bridge the gap and to actually look into anything that will seriously challenge why it is that they believe that we live on a globe. And so, in other than wanting to know the truth of really who we are as a people, and that these kind of things are also affirmed in the scripture, and they also give confirmation as to the divinely inspired nature of the scriptures. I personally just want to understand, when I step outside and in witnessing just the awesomeness of being part of the creation, being able to watch the sun move across the sky, and the clouds just moving also, being pushed like cotton puffs against the wide, grand blue sky and just seeing everything unfolding daily, what I call the soft parade, it brings such um, some fulfillment to me now to understand and to know that I've moved on beyond the deception, that I'm now able to really apply in truth and to understand what I am seeing. And also the intimacy of knowing that God is right there, sitting atop the vaulted dome of the earth, and that he that he's overseeing, that he's given personal oversight as to the happenings of what's going on here on the earth with, us as a collective race, and also personally with each one of us, that he has his angels tasked with keeping up with all the things that are happening, even with each one of us, and everything, that he's not distracted. He's not having to deal with thousands or millions of other planets and other solar systems and other possible realities, that we are the focus, and that this is the center. We are it. We are what's going on, and that he cares about us, and that he wants us to have part in the salvation that his son brought and extended to all of us, and incarnating into the flesh and bringing, exposing himself to death. And so I think that to me brings me more fulfillment and greater joy than any of the other conspiracies that I've studied and have come to discernment on. Kip?
Yeah, and that's why, it led me to make the video I did last night, because, people get this misconception that we're supposed to sit on our butts and wait for Jesus to return to fix everything. That is not what Jesus said to do. Jesus said to go forth, heal the sick, raise the dead, deal with the problems. We're supposed to be a beacon of light to show glory to our Father who's in heaven. There is something I can't stand, it's lazy Christianity.
Yes.
And people that do that, they just sit in the church once a week for an hour and they think that's it, that's good. No, we're to be doing that stuff 24 hours a day. It should be on our mind all the time. From the minute we wake up to the minute we go to bed, we should be thinking, what can I do now to serve the Lord? What can I be doing today to make somebody else's life better than serving myself? And that's the awakening I'm trying to get, out there, that people need to say, hey, look at what materialism's doing to us. It's making us grow cold for one another.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And, in coming to truth too, again, with understanding this enclosed world system and being able to read even things that you may not have read, in a very long time, and that if it somehow links to this as information, just like with what we were talking about with the throne room of God and the sea of glass and the order of creation and those kind of things, being able to understand all of that information and how it is directly connected to the things that we're talking about, and also to how it totally contradicts all of the lies and the deceptions that have been fabricated, perpetuated by NASA and science and scientism as a religion, because it is the new religion, and also how it immediately destroys what, again, I believe to be the next aspect of the agenda, that they are going to try to affirm that the ancient aliens created us, and that they are somehow from very, very far away, and that having advanced technologies and abilities that we do not have, that somehow we should embrace them as our gods and as our benefactors, and that we should rely on them to lead us into that golden age, into that new age where everybody gets elevated in consciousness, and that they have some truth that we don't have because we're not as advanced as them, or that they've been here a lot longer than us, and that because of that we should look up to them, and that we should consider them like what the Vatican is saying, that the Space Brothers are somehow closer to God than we are, and that we should look to them for spiritual insight in understanding, even if they, say, well, you know, Jesus is one of us. He's one of the, we are the ascended masters, and he's one of our brothers, and he was just, Buddha and him and Krishna and all the other so-called ascended masters over the different periods of time, that they were just trying to prepare you for our coming, and that the Sumerian mythology is about the Anunnaki. We are them, and we're here to uh, take you by the hand and walk you into the new age. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And, I was talking to Timmy this morning, and he just released his video, by the way, on the Game of Thrones.
Excellent.
His study's out now on his channel. What's
his
really
channel?
Timmy O, or Castleberry Crunch.
Okay, that's on YouTube.
Yep.
All right, excellent. Well, continue.
Now I lost my train of thought, but
sorry about
okay.
that, brother.
No, what is really interesting is that this is why spiritual blindness is so dangerous. When people start just cutting that part out and saying we're just truth seekers. Well, you can't be a truth seeker if you're not spiritual. It doesn't work that way. You have to have both in order to fully grasp the concepts of where we live and who God is and how everything operates in this world.
Absolutely. We'll be right back for a second hour. And I saw a deep abyss with columns of heavenly fire, and among them I saw columns of fire fall, which were beyond measure, alike towards the height and towards the depth. And beyond that abyss I saw a place which had no firmament of the heaven above, and no firmly founded earth beneath it. There was no water upon it, and no birds, but it was a waste and a horrible place. This is one of the other translations. I believe that's the R.H. Charles translation of the Book of Enoch, chapter 18, where we're talking about this void in the north where hell is naked, and that the earth hangs upon nothing, that it was established over this empty place. And as you were talking about this particular photo, which shows, this circular opening at the polar north, that when you do some research into um, specific explorers which may have actually succeeded in going there in the past, and also returning back alive, that they have shared. There's like John D. Wrote Mercator, the guy that did all the projection maps, and was created all these maps over different periods of time back in the 1500s. He wrote to John D about what some of these explorers had located at this particular at the North Pole, and he referenced specifically that there was this great whirlpool which swirled around the black magnetic lodestone mountain, which sits at the center of the earth there at the North Pole, which for those that don't know or don't understand, that the North Pole is actually the center of the circular plane of the earth, and that it's also where Polaris in the skies, in the firmament, in above the North Pole, that is the one fixed star, and that it doesn't move, and it also is located in the very center. And as the time lapse photography shows, that all of the other heavenly luminaries, the stars at night, which Brother Kip shows and ties together with what Ezekiel is mentioning as the eyes, talking about the the stars that are moving in circle, in circuit around Polaris, as we see again in this time-lapse photography. But anyways, there is also association with the North, with salvation, the return of Christ, and also with, I believe, what is cited in Joel chapter 2 and Revelation chapter 9 with the release of the locust army. And that what this this hole that we're talking about, this the which again is also associated with the hollow earth leading down, not hollow earth in that there are two openings at the North Pole and the South Pole, because again the South Pole doesn't exist, but that the hollow earth in regard to the great abyss and this northern opening, that it also has connection to with what I believe to be the bottomless pit, and that the locust army that are released, and also the four angels, not the four angels maybe not specifically being imprisoned in this place, but they say near the Euphrates River or whatever, but that the locust army which is released, and that has connections to Joel chapter 2, and also there's other passages which reference giants being imprisoned in the polar north, that this is what we are talking about. Kip?
Yeah, and what's interesting is I think a lot of people have gotten off track with CERN. I'm starting to realize that CERN is not what people think it is. That is not what's actually going to open the abyss. That is their exit strategy. They are trying to find an exit out of here in order to avoid judgment.
Right.
And I believe the pit that you just said is going to be open is in the north, because that's why some people got confused why I put the Immortals trailer on after that, showing the vortex. And I'm like, this is the agenda. This is the Satan and his angels, and the ones that are going to release, they're going to have a war. They're going to fight. This is like what we see in Game of Thrones, the old gods and the new gods reference. They're going to fight with each other because they don't particularly like one another as it is, because they've been locked up all this time. Why should they, like the ones that are got to be free this whole time? Because maybe you can help me with this. Is it in Jasher or is it in Jubilee where it is spoken of where Satan was allowed to have so many entities with him and the others got locked up? I'm trying to remember which book that was in.
The 1/10. I believe it was in the book of Jubilees, that talks about that, and Satan is referred to as Mastema, and it talks about only 1/10 of the angels, the rebel angels, were left to be at service to him, and the rest were confined into the interior.
Yeah, so these entities, they don't love one another, that's for sure. And this is where people get this misunderstood. This is how grand the deception is going to be. Especially with what Obama's been doing, this corruption we see in the world is being done on purpose. This whole Luciferian system we see right now with the wicked politicians and the wicked leaders, these people are going to be taken out. But it's not going to be taken out by Jesus, because if you read in Revelation, it says that the king of the abyss is essentially going to destroy Babylon. It's going to burn her with fire. The one that destroys the Illuminati is not the one you want to follow. That is the Antichrist system right there. Jesus comes after this. He comes after the working of Satan with all signs and lying wonders.
Right.
And I can see right now, this is another reason why people aren't studying their Bible, aren't studying Scripture. They think it's all phooey, and it's because they're not going to be able to discern what's coming. This great war is going to happen. The biggest war we've ever seen in the history of this world is going to happen. People are going to get confused because they're going to see these giant angels and these warring entities and think, well, maybe this must be Jesus. This must have been what they're talking about. Surely we must follow and fear them. When it's like, no, we as Christian believers in Christ have the power over them. That's why they're going to be so angry at us. The two witnesses will come forth. That's why the two witnesses are going to be utterly hated by the world, because they believe that this is the real God, the Anunnaki. And that's what this is going to be, is this power struggle war, which is essentially the Hegelian dialectic. It's going to be evil versus evil. Neither side is good. And people are going to be, swarming for this, because look, he defeated the system. They destroyed all these wicked Luciferian systems like Monsanto and the American government and Russia or whatever, and they are going to put order to everything and say these systems have poisoned you with the genetic alterations and the corn. Well, here's a genetic upgrade to fix yourselves because we're the real gods. We care and love. I can totally see how this is going to play out and why Enoch especially is so hated and suppressed as a text.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. And just to bring up a couple other passages which are also connected to the north, in Psalm 75 it says, "For salvation, salvation cometh neither from the east, nor from the west, nor from the south," which is implying in verse 6 that salvation will come from the north. And so, as we have talked about with this particular Jacob's ladder, the void at the north, that it also has connection with, again, the throne of God in the ascending aspect of this particular ladder, and that the descending aspect leads down into Sheol and Tartarus and into the great abyss. And so it has these different associations with both the forces of good and the place of the righteousness, which is in the third heaven, and also the place of wickedness and the release of the angels from the bottomless pit, and also with the giants, which will be released out of the north as well, which I'm going to share a passage in a little bit later that is very intriguing, which ties to that. But two more verses about New Jerusalem. It says this in Psalms 48: "Great is the Lord, and greatly to be praised in the city of our God, in the mountains of his holiness. Beautiful for situation, the joy of the whole earth is Mount Zion on the sides of the north, the city of the great king." And so there again, the sides of the north, which is referenced in Isaiah 14, of which Lucifer ties to the mount of the congregation, and also to the place, where the Most High resides on the throne of God, above the firmament. That it is inferred in that particular scripture that that's where Lucifer needs to go if he wants to exalt himself and to take the Most High's throne and to be like the Most High. And so again, these sides of the north is a similar reference to what we're talking about here.
Yes, because if you read in Enoch, isn't that what Enoch is describing as the mountain ranges that are around that
Yes.
northern region where the thrones are?
Exactly. Yes, that's exactly what he's talking about. And in those particular passages too, I believe Enoch describes this great whirlpool and talking about how all the waters of the world come together. And as I was referencing, described by these different explorers, they speak about this great whirlpool encompassing and surrounding this black lodestone mountain, which, in my opinion, is possibly the mountain which Satan had taken Yeshua, Jesus Christ, to when he showed him all the kingdoms of the world, because it's in the very center of the earth. And it's also cited as being a very tall mountain, possibly greater than that of Everest, and possibly the highest in elevation of any mountain on the plane of the earth. And so it's also postulated that it might be, there's in the mythology Mount Meru or Mount Olympus, and also Mount Zion might be, the mount of the congregation, as spoken of in that particular passage, that it has connections to this that we're talking about, that is located in the very center of the earth, there at the northern pole. Kip?
Yeah, another thing, that I advise people to do is you can go to a Bible search engine and just type in the word whirlwind. you see a lot of references to stuff coming out of that northern whirlwind, which is the vortex. When God came and spoke to Job, where does it say he came out of? It says that God came out of the whirlwind to the north.
Right, right. Right, and the description in Enoch of the tops of the mountains being on fire, and how you opened up your video on the vortex of the north with all of the aurora borealis and all of those particular lights. And my friend Flatwater Glenn there in Canada, he wrote about and shared a video talking about that perhaps the aurora borealis are the cherubim, the flaming sword of the cherubim, which divides our earthly plane from that of the where the place of the righteous is, paradise being in the third heaven.
Yep.
All right, and so I'm going to give you just a few minutes to share commentary on whatever you would like, and then I'm going to pull up this particular this one quote that I want to share about the giants being released out of the north.
Okay, yeah, with the Northern Lights, I just find it interesting that is the one thing scientists have tried so hard to explain, and they come up with the most crazy ideas, and people just assume, oh, well, if scientists say that, then we must believe it. When in fact, does it not look like the sky is on fire? I mean, that is exactly what Enoch said. And the further north you get, the more intense they seem to get. When I lived in North Dakota, I was able to see them a lot. And I used to just stare at them for hours just because it looked like dancing fire in the sky. And what also was interesting was the ancient book that I was reading out of, something old that I was reading with that video, was the guy said that you're seeing the actual lights of the central sun. I thought, there's that central sun reference again. And if you look at the movie The Gods of Egypt that came out, when Seth is in there, he flips over the map, the flat earth globe looking map thing. He flips it over to show the underworld, and what do you see in the center? It looks like an upside down sun.
Wow, that is fascinating.
And it was funny because a guy commented on my video. Someone said, why would there be a central sun in hell? And the guy just commented, he said, well, something's got to heat hell, doesn't it?
Right.
And I just thought, it's funny, but it makes a lot of sense. And
yeah,
I thought,
totally.
is this what Nibiru really is? Is this what the black sun is? Is this why Adolf Hitler had it all over in all their theosophical stuff? And I believe that this, in the Game of Thrones, you see it on that model. You see the sun in the center of this pit. And I thought, that's most likely what the black sun is. It's not a good thing. It's a very bad thing.
Are you familiar with the that story, The Smoky God?
No, I'm not.
Well, it's a very intriguing, definitely something you should take a look at. It's the story of this fisherman that he and his father, I believe it was in the late 1800s, he talks about how they had been successful in taking a fishing trip, an extended trek towards the northern polar regions, and how they got so far up north, and they decided to, because they believed in the mythology which described a place of paradise being at the northern pole. And so him and his father, they just decided to go for it, and they successfully navigated in between all of these ice flows and the crunching of the ice, and came to, in description of this this river that led into the hollow of the earth, into the interior of the earth, and that there they met a race of giants, a group of giants, and that they described, this incredible, what seemingly to be a wonderland, and that they had high technology, and that the technologies that they are describing were very advanced, even to our standards right now. But in that particular story, they describe this central sun, and that the giants worship this central sun. They called it the Smoky God. And they also talk about that was one of the signs that they saw when they got close to this, to the northern pole, and that they thought they had actually were were led off track, and that they were no longer heading towards the north because they saw its reflections off of the firmament, which is also that with the way that the sundogs reflect off of the firmament and showing the sun in multiple places, being all the same kind of thing, that it was sort of like that. And they describe seeing the central sun, but then later they saw the sun rise, and they realized that what they had seen previously was not the sun that was the sun that is in circuit above the earth. And so that's a totally fascinating story that you should take a look at, even though the author, not understanding that we live on a flat plane, they give allusions to the globe all throughout the writings, and even talk about coming out of the southern pole. But now that we know different and better as far as what the actual what the earth really is, you have to apply that to what they're describing. But again, it is connected to the hollow earth. The giants are said to be benevolent, which I found to be very weird. But who knows? Maybe they didn't, at all think of these two puny humans as any kind of a threat. Certainly not as what I will be sharing when we come back from this very next break. The depiction of the giants that will be released out of the bottomless pit, and that have connection to Joel chapter 2 with with being the locust army that is also described in Revelation 9. It's quite a lengthy quote, and it also has connections to the reign of the Antichrist, which is why I know that it has that the release of them will be at the end of days, and that it will also be connected to the release of the fallen angels. But it's a totally fascinating story. You can find it online, and take you probably a few hours to read. But let me get you to comment.
Yeah, I mean, this stuff's even more interesting to me because I am Norwegian.
Oh,
So
very cool.
I know very much the whole myth in the stuff with the Vikings and all that. And what's interesting is a lot of the older, more darker mythology with the Vikings that most people aren't aware of is like Nalfigr, the nail ship, and it said that during Ragnarok, which is the end
Right.
war, that the giants, the ice giants or the frost giants gets released and they come across the waters in ships made from the fingers and toenails of the dead.
Wow, wow. That is fascinating. Yeah, I bet that you've discovered, if you've studied a lot of the mythology, because the Northern Europeans, they have a lot of connections to even like the Norse Eddas, uh, describing Jotunheim, which is the place of the giants, and even in the Norse mythologies, Thor and the other gods, they went to war against these ice giants, and the different giant groups and clans. And so is there anything else that you'd like to share in regard to your study on these different mythologies that are connected to some of the things that we're talking about?
Well, I think the most interesting thing is, that people that contact me, and I had a person contact me from Newfoundland, and he said, everybody thinks I'm crazy, but he said, I've seen the things you're talking about. He said, I have seen some crazy stuff in the sky as far as, like he said, lights flashing that look like nuclear bombs going off, but without, the destruction. Light orbs flying about, just, he said, very strange things that just, make him terrified spiritually because he can't understand, what it is he's seeing. But he said, there are definitely things here. And I just happened to joke in one of my videos. I said maybe I should start like a GoFundMe account or something, and put money together for an expedition to Newfoundland and document some of the stuff. Which, if I had the money, I would absolutely do that. I mean, that would be very fascinating to go up there and get some of this firsthand. Have a good witness go up there and document some of this stuff.
Right, which I was also wanting to mention that for any pilot, why somebody wouldn't just, if they're close to that area, just book it and see if they could fly over the polar north to see what they could see, and whether this huge black lodestone mountain, which I know it's there. I mean, these kind of things that we're talking about with the whirlpool and the swirling whirlpool leading into the great abyss, these kind of things are, in my mind, confirmed to be there by the other explorers, and also with the description of Job and Enoch and others. And so I think that if there's some daring pilot out there that is maybe up there for a journey and piloting and a craft anyways, if they ever had the chance to do that, to take some pictures or some video of what is really there and why they won't allow anybody to go there, that would be just awesome, in a way to confirm some of the aspects of what we are talking about, because I don't know that they have a army on standby like they do in Antarctica, with keeping people from going towards these external boundaries, keeping them from being able to discover, in my opinion, the outer, the where the firmament comes down and joins in union with the Earth, the Antarctic ice wall, in those particular regions. And so it would be fascinating. I know one of the other hosts here, Brooks Agnew, which I've been wanting to invite him to come on and tell his story. He was trying to put together a journey to the North Pole to discover, to see if they could discover one of these hollow entrances, hollow Earth entrances, but they were stopped and impeded continuously, so much so that the journey never even came to happen. Kip?
Yeah, I mean, just think of how this is shown in movies. You got John Carpenter's The Thing, which shows an excavation going on of a UFO and an alien. And of course, what did that alien's DNA do? It would assimilate human DNA and turn it into essentially a beast. We see many movies about things being like Transformers shows them digging something up in the polar regions. I mean,
Right.
they do this for a reason in these movies. They show this stuff for a reason.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be right back for final segment. All right. Welcome back, everybody, for final segment. And just to let everybody know, because I've been trying to remember to do this, but today is the 13th day of IR in the year 5776, according to the ancient Enochian Hebrew lunar calendar. It's the 28th day of the counting of the Omer, leading up into the Pentecost, Shavuot, and it is also 2 days before what is the third Sabbath. And the Sabbaths this month actually fall on Mondays. And then next month, let me pull it up according to this calendar. Next month, the Sabbaths will fall on Tuesdays. And that Rosh Chodesh of the month of Sivan is on the 7th of June. And so that will be the first day of the lunar month, the Chodesh. And then next month, the Sabbaths fall on Tuesday. All right. Let me go ahead, brother. You had a comment?
Something interesting. I'm glad that someone brought this to my attention. In my video talking about the Hyperborean menace and the blue entities and that, tonight, everyone that's listening out there, tonight is the very rare blue moon that is going to be appearing. This is the most rarest event we have, of even more rare than blood moons, and that is going to happen tonight. It's going to coincide with Mars.
Oh, interesting. What is a blue moon?
It is. You have to just go look it up on the internet. It's not. I don't think it means that it's actually blue, but
Yeah.
it kind of has a different look to it as opposed to like a blood moon, and they're extremely rare.
Okay, very cool. Yeah. Well, maybe Cathy can look up the definition while we're talking about this. I will. I'm going to read this passage, and also I want to open up the phone lines for anybody that might want to call in and ask Kip a question or share commentary with us. The phone line is 866 378 7884. 1-866 378 7884, which for those that are interested is basically 866-37-TRUTH. All right, let me read this and then I'll get you to comment on it. It's a passage from the Cave of Treasures, I believe. But it's about Gog and Magog, which we know were groups of giants that were imprisoned in the north. And it says this: when Alexander was king and had subdued countries and cities and had arrived in the east, he saw on the confines of the east those men who are of the children of Japheth. They were more wicked and unclean than all other dwellers in the world, filthy peoples of hideous appearance, who ate mice and the creeping things of the earth, and snakes and scorpions. They never buried the bodies of their dead, and ate as dainties even the children which women aborted, and the afterbirth. People ignorant of God and unacquainted with the power of reason, but who lived in this world without understanding, like ravening beasts. When Alexander saw their wickedness, he called to God to his aid, and he gathered together and brought them and their wives and their children, and made them go in and shut them up within the confines of the north. This is the gate of the world on the north, and there is no other entrance or exit from the confines of the world from the east to the north. And Alexander prayed to God with tears, and God heard his prayer and commanded those two lofty mountains, which are called the children of the north, and they drew nigh to one another until there remained between them about 12 cubits. Then he built in front of them a strong building, and he made for it a door of brass, and anointed it within and without with oil of thesnocus, so that if they should bring iron implements near it to force it open, they would be unable to move. It, and if they wished to melt it with fire, it would quench it, and it feared neither the operations of devils nor of sorcerers, and was not to be overcome by them. Just a little bit more here. At the end of the world, and at the final consummation, when men are eating and drinking and marrying wives, and women are given to husbands, when they are planting vineyards and building buildings, and there is neither wicked man nor adversary, on account of the assured tranquility and certain peace, suddenly the gates of the north shall be opened, and the hosts of the nations that are imprisoned there shall go forth. The whole earth shall tremble before them, and men shall flee and take refuge in the mountains and in caves and in burial places and in the clefts of the earth, and they shall die of hunger, and there will be none to bury them, by reason of the multitude of afflictions which they will make men suffer. They will eat the flesh of men and drink the blood of animals. They will devour the creeping things of the earth, and hunt for serpents and scorpions and reptiles that shoot out venom and eat them. They will eat dead dogs and cats and the abortions of women with afterbirth. They will give mothers the bodies of their children to cook, and they will eat them before them without shame. They will destroy the earth, and there will be none able to stand before them. And so this is, basically um, the what I was talking to as far as these giants being caught up in the center of the earth. Kathy, did you have a comment?
Yes, I did pull that up about the blue moon and Mars. The definition of blue moon is the third full moon in an astronomical season with 4 full moons. A normal year has 4 astronomical seasons: spring, summer, fall, and winter, with 3 months and normally 3 full moons each. So when one of the astronomical seasons has 4 full moons instead of 3, the third full moon, the third one, is called a blue moon. And it's not blue, it's actually white. And it will be near Mars. And it's going to be something really to see in the sky.
Oh, wow. Very interesting. Thank you, sister.
You're welcome.
Well, let me get you to comment on that I had just read to and talked about, if you would, Kip.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds very similar to Joel's prophecy and Isaiah's. Right. And people laugh at this stuff, and it's really scary because when this stuff actually happens, there is a reason why Jesus said men's hearts will fail them for fear.
Right.
They can laugh at it now, but when this stuff happens and you start seeing it, it's not going to be funny anymore. And this is why the world is in the confusing state it is, because they're like, oh, Jesus doesn't exist, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, because that's your only way out. That's your only protection against these things that are coming is Jesus.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is, why it is so important to come to truth on all of these things as far as the gospel, and to seek him in relationship, to want to be born again and devote your life to being a Christian. And I mean a Christian not in one that goes through the motions of acting religious or going to church once a week, but being a disciple of Christ and following the commandments and looking up to him as example, and trying to be Christ-like in doing good unto others and taking care of the orphan and the widows, and loving your brothers, your neighbors, and trying to be all around compassionate in supporting and helping people, and helping them to come to terms and understanding on even all of the esoteric aspects of what we're talking about in this particular show. And that's the real work. Yes, sharing what we share and talking about what we talk about is important, especially for those that are seeking and that come to discernment on the other aspects of it, as far as the relationship and that understanding that yes, that indeed the earth is a flat circular plane, and that it's covered by a dome, and that if that is true, and these kind of things are regarded and spoken about in the scriptures, well then the God who authored the scriptures must also be real, and that that they can seek him in relationship, and that at least they need to start reading the gospel and come to understanding on the the profundity of it and the teachings that are contained therein. Because if God is real and he inspired the gospels, well then the things that he says, the prophecies which he has revealed through them, are also going to come true. And that one of the biggest topics of the gospel has to do with the end of days and the return of Christ, and that with that second coming, every knee shall bow and every tongue confess. And as you tied to with the book of Enoch, in that chapter 18, the description of the white throne, the alabaster throne of God, and that he's going to take his judgment seat, New Jerusalem, for those that are righteous and those that are counted and numbered among the elect and found worthy will be allowed entrance into New Jerusalem, and that it will descend out of the north and be brought down to the earth, and those that are righteous will be allowed to enter in and live with God and be directly in His appearance. There will be a new heaven and a new earth, no longer need for a son, because He will be the light thereof, as it says in Revelation. And so these are some of the more important aspects, and the things that we're talking about are leading a lot of people to reevaluate and challenge them as to why they have believed the globe deception, and that once they are awakened to it as deception, and they no longer believe NASA or the accomplishments that have been affirmed, like that they actually succeeded in landing on the moon or actually even going there. That the other things that we're talking about as far as our being the within living under an enclosed firmament, the solid structure of the firmament, and that, as both you and I have put forth, that the reason the fallen angels can't escape judgment is because it was put in place after the earth was found to be a ruinous heap and had to be reformed, recreated, and reestablished. And so these things are helping a lot of people come to knowledge and understanding of who God really is as the author, the creator of humanity and the earth, and the author of the Gospels. Kip.
Yeah, it's like, I had some people say that I was wrong in my video because Ezekiel was talking about eyes, not angels. And I thought, well, that's not necessarily true that I'm wrong, because are angels not eyes? I mean, now I'm not talking about a literal eyeball. I'm saying the angels are essentially watchers. They are
Exactly.
up there watching us. They're looking down. So I don't see any reason why Ezekiel would have not meant what he meant by saying their eyes in the sky, because they are angels, the hosts of heaven, watching us. I mean,
Right.
people think it's silly, but I mean, we are the center of creation. We're the center of everything. So, I mean, think of us as in of the dome, and you have all the angels, hosts of heaven. They're all watching us like a big TV show, essentially.
Right.
Everything's being monitored.
Right. And also the stars have affiliation with the angels. They are cited as being, like in the book of Enoch, where it talks about the animal farm parable, where it gives a description of, like Adam and Eve as the white bulls, and it speaks of Lucifer as being a star that had fallen uh, to the earth, and that was cast out of the heavens. And that in Revelation, where it talks about, that the stars will fall to the earth as if they've been shaken as a fig from a tree. When trying to understand that with the regular heliocentric worldview and the belief that stars are suns, in varying size and varying color because of the heat, and that they have these huge solar systems, that many of them have solar systems and huge Earth-like planets and other planets even larger, like supposedly Jupiter and Saturn, that they're being cast down to the earth. How does that make any kind of sense? Because it would totally destroy, the earth. And
Well, I have an interesting theory on that.
please,
Something that came to my attention. All these stars we've been seeing falling, all these meteorite streaks that we see coming down, like one after the other, more than I've ever noticed in my life, being shown. And then something just dawned on me one day. I thought, why was it in the Noah movie they showed the fallen angels as spirits inside of rocks, these rock giants, and Transformers, it was showing these rocks falling from the heavens containing these spirits of these angelic. And then I just started thinking, what if these rocks that we think are falling are just space rocks, and what if they are indeed falling entities? We don't know.
Well,
We can't say yes or no.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. It very well could be. just like, with the sprites that are seen in the heavens, which run into the firmament and then bounce back off of it. It could be the similar kind of phenomena that that they could be some kind of like a fairy type of being or something. Who knows? Everything is said to have some kind of consciousness. According to the Native Americans, they believe that trees, they call them standing people, and the fish, water breathers, but that they believe everything is conscious to some degree. I want to read one more passage about the release of the giants from the north, and this is from the Brenton Septuagint, the translation of Isaiah chapter 13, verses 1 through 6, where it says this: The vision which Isaiah, son of Amos, saw against Babylon. Lift up a standard on the mountain of the plain, exalt the voices of them, beckon with the hand, open the gates, ye rulers. I give command and I bring them. Giants are coming to fulfill my wrath, rejoicing at the same time and insulting. A voice of many nations on the mountains, even like to that of many nations. A voice of kings and nations gathered together. The Lord of hosts has given command to a warlike nation to come from a land afar off, from the utmost foundation of heaven. The Lord and his warriors are coming to destroy all the world. Howl ye, for the day of the Lord is near, and destruction from God shall arrive. And so, as we were talking about, these things, the locust army, Joel chapter 2, where it speaks about this supernatural army being released from this, as I said, the North Pole as vortex, as the void of the void in the north, where hell is naked, and the earth hangs on nothing, that's spread out over the empty place. That all of these things make sense and come together in premise when you have discernment in the way that Kip and I have become confirming witness for one another, in talking about things with again well, Kip, why don't you talk about, because you mentioned in your video, the greatest secret of kept from history. You talk about what we're talking about with the torus and the primer fields, and so give people an idea as to where you got knowledge of the structure of the Earth with the enclosed world system, and the dome spread above it, and talk about the content of both, how the both of those videos are united with this vortex being at the north.
Well, essentially, what I started to realize is that how come everyone settles for one truth and they just assume that's it? When we know how crafty the enemies are, the fallen angels especially, secrets are hidden in many different things. And I just thought, how come we don't put it all together? We take the globe Earth, the flat Earth, the hollow Earth, put all three together, and let's see what we get. And that's how I ended up finding the information for that video. And I started putting it all together, saying, hey, we need to take something out of each one of this, put it in with Enoch, put it with the Bible, and voila, there's the answers. And sure enough, it all coincided together and made sense, because you got the vortex, which covers all that mysterious stuff. You got the flat plate of Earth inside the globe, because the globe is actually the firmament, which is above and below. And it answered all the questions that I had to myself. So I actually kind of made the video more for me and just some friends, and it ended up just exploding. I almost have 500,000 views on that now.
Yeah, that's so awesome. And that just shows how hungry people are for answers, and how they are really seeking what they don't even know, that a lot of their answers are connected to what they might consider the flat earth as being totally ludicrous, but when they really start to investigate it, they'll see that it's connected to so much that is little understood within the gospel, like with what we're talking about with the, the sea of glass, and how the heavens are spread as a curtain above, that the Most High sitteth on the circle of the earth, and that the temple of God is located on top of the firmament, and the sides of the north. And so all of these things really come to life in meaningful way when you are able to listen and open yourself and embrace the teachings that we're trying to share. We've got about 6 minutes, Kip, and so I want to give you a chance to tell people again where they can go to contact you, your website, your YouTube, your Facebook, your email, anything that you'd like to share in that regard.
Yeah, the best place to go to find everything is just go to D13 Watchmen. That's MEN, not MAN. But D13watchmen.com. You can type it in on Google. It's the first stuff that comes up for everything, the YouTube, the website, the Facebook group. And something else, I just talked to Robbie from Celebrate Truth yesterday. He's back from his trip to New Zealand. He got some amazing footage and some amazing evidence. He's putting a documentary together. He did a test where he saw the moon in New Zealand and called his friend up here in Canada, and they saw the exact same moon. So that's a little hard to understand there if you want to say the Earth's a globe.
Right? Yeah, totally. Yeah, well, that would be awesome. For those that are down in the southern hemiplane area, if somebody would contact me that might be near, like, the beaches of South Africa, or the very southern portions of Australia, or any of those southern continents down there, at the very tip, in Chile and South America. I want somebody to take a photo or a video of where the sun is during the winter solstice, because somebody had contacted me and asked me, basically saying that all of what we are teaching is wrong, because they said that they can see the sun in the southern skies on the winter solstice, which even, I told them that even if you can see the sun in your southern skies on the winter solstice, it just means that the Tropic of Capricorn is further south, and that what is projected, or what is depicted on the azimuthal equidistant projection map as being the locations for the Tropic of Capricorn and the Tropic of Cancer, that they could be off. Not that, that we're moving in orbit around the sun, because that doesn't affirm that at all. And so, anyways, just contact me if you can, zengarcia2010 at gmail. Give you chance for final commentary, Kip. We've got about 3 minutes remaining.
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to cover a little bit was, I'm sure many people are aware of the Tunguska event. Now we kind of can understand the spiritual aspect of whatever that was that crashed into the earth. I mean, not many people may have caught it, but if you watch the movie Hellboy, the creepy dude in that, he mentions that's where the keystone was found that opens up the portal to hell. He said the Tunguska event keystone has been preserved all these years for us to utilize. And it just got me thinking, when the Tunguska event happened, there was no debris or anything found there. It's still to this day a mysterious event, and I know that is actually a spiritual event. Whatever hit there was probably something angelic.